somehow all of us were wrong about all these sleeper cells coming out of the Middle East. We know they're there. We know they exist. We know they've been trained. We know they've been around forever. And we all thought they were going to do something by now. How could we all be so wrong? What the heck is going on? One thing is for certain, the anger that's coming out of this Iranian regime, it's just insane. I mean, these people are lashing out at everybody. I think they've had 11 or 12 different countries now, and they're mostly Muslim countries. It doesn't make any sense, but they're like a cornered rat that just bites anything that comes close to it. That's what they're doing, but their fury that's demonstrated by them unleashing in just every direction. You would think if they had the tool in their toolbox to unleash the sleeper cells here, now would be the time. Now, I got to be careful. I'm always careful when I talk about things like this because the last thing I want to do is give them any ideas, right? We don't want to do that, except everything that I'm going to mention here is already well documented. Everything's already been in the news. They were well aware of it a long time ago, so I'm not giving anybody any tips that they don't already know about because the FBI, the federal government, they've all issued reports talking about these very topics that I'm going to mention here. So there, I'm not tipping them off or training them to anything, but we know there's sleeper cells here. We've seen it, we've heard about it. I mean, they've got this map that they put out because they knew the locations of so many of them. We're finding out from this Iranian mess just how good some of our intel is. I mean, geez, look at the stuff that they know inside of Iran. I'll guarantee you they know an awful lot about what's going on in here. But there was, my gosh, it was like 20 years ago, they were buying up old camps. There's a Boy Scout camp, for instance, in eastern Iowa. I think it was like 65 acres. It was back in the hills. It was all pretty remote, timbered access area. They bought that. When the Boy Scout camp closed up, they already had the barracks and everything there, and some Islamist group bought it. And that's what they were doing out there. The FBI reported on it. They were using it as a terror training camp. These are all across America. We know they're out there. Where the heck are they? I'm as surprised as anybody else because all of us predicted. It's like, look out, here they come. I still think they're going to do something, but what are they doing? Are they coordinating? Are they waiting to have their big day and do a bunch of them at once? I mean, we're 5 days into this now. What is going on? It doesn't make any sense. It caught us all by surprise. I think it caught the whole world by surprise. We had one shooter down there in Austin, shot up a bar in a neighborhood, and that's been it. Many, many years ago, when Obama was in his first stage of terror in our government, they were busting these people, Middle Eastern guys, going out and photographing water towers, factories, critical factories. They were photographing bridges. They would pull these guys over and check them, and they had maps of all this stuff. They had to let them all go because nothing they were doing was a crime. But they're obviously casing the joint, and I mean our whole country. And we are so vulnerable because we're a big country spread out over an awful lot of real estate. And the truth is, by our very nature, our freedom makes us vulnerable. That's why we can't let enemies inside in the first place. If you're going to have freedom on the inside, you better protect it from the outside. So that's where we're at with that. Everybody's in agreement, and a lot of that's getting done now. But where are the ones that are already here? If I was a Jew going to a synagogue, I'd be pretty nervous right now, especially in a place like New York or anywhere in Michigan or Minnesota. I mean, geez, you know these people are around. What are they waiting for? They're armed. They got their safe houses. Where the heck are they and what are they planning? I still don't believe we're going to get through this without them acting up. Are they going to do like 5 or 6 attacks in one day? Are they planning for one big one? They got to be careful communicating with each other because that's how they keep busting these guys. Our intel services, they get a little suspicious of them and boom, they go right to the communication system. They track them down by their phones, their cyber trails through the computers. You know, they got some pretty tricky ways of finding stuff out. But these sleeper cells can be pretty tricky too. And the truth is, the more primitive you get today, the more secretive you are. If you quit using all the electronics, you can hide. It's the only way to really hide anymore is to stay off the net, stay off the cell phones, and then you can hide. But some of these people are crazy zealots. I suppose there's probably been a few of them that decided, oh, hell, I'm not living so bad here in America. It's not worth it. I'm not going to do something to blow up for myself. I'm doing pretty good. There's probably been a few of those, but there are the crazy zealots. We know they are. Okay, so where are they? You know, they're talking to each other. You got to think about how vulnerable we really are. There's so many towns across America, even the bigger cities have water towers dispersed throughout them. You could do an awful lot of damage to a community by taking out water towers. If you've ever flown over the southwestern states, you've seen this crazy big water ditch that they've got that just goes clear across the desert. From the Colorado River, it goes like 300, 325 miles down into the Phoenix area. That is one big wide open ditch, and there's an entire region down there that takes their drinking water from this. Millions and millions of people. It'd be easy to put a couple barrels of stuff in there. And yes, I have read reports where the FBI is concerned about that. They've been published reports. I'm not creating any ideas, inventing anything for them. But that is possible. This thing runs clear out in the middle of nowhere. It'd be easy to get to it and just dump and run. We know this. Bridges. Can you imagine if they just bombed a bridge across the Mississippi River? One or two of them? It wouldn't take that much to do. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And you know, these guys, if they love anything, they love their little bombs. That would really, really throw off the economy and trade, and it would put the country into panic. That's what the idea of terrorism is. That's why they call it terrorism. It induces terror into society. But you know what's really weird about this? Iran is hitting all these Muslim countries. All of a sudden, they want to be our friends, even the ones that weren't really so friendly with us before. But it goes back to the old Arab adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, all those little Arab countries over there that have never been that good to us, now all of a sudden they're getting hit by somebody they've supported all these years, and they come running to the U.S. because we're over there, we're already kicking ass, right? Well, they weren't so friendly before. Some of them were kind of friendly, but they're all pretty sketchy. Like I said, there's been 11 or 12 of them already hit. You know, that's something nobody considers. The violent aspect, the violent nature of these Islamic countries, the Islamic people in general, it's just bizarre. You know, the Jewish people were around for a couple thousand years before Muhammad wandered off into the desert and decided that he was going to create this cult. The Jews were already there. How many Jewish nations are there in the world? One. They're present in a lot of nations. They don't get in there, take over government, try to institute law, and change the society that's already there. They just move around and cash in. They're businessmen. That's what they do. I know there's a lot of Jew haters out there that are going to finish that sentence in their own way, but the truth is, there is only one Jewish nation. They're not out to conquer the world. They're not out to conquer territory and change it, not like the Islamic people are. The Jewish people, they don't have sleeper cells all over the world. No one even considers that. I've never heard anyone even talk about it. Oh, gee, those Jewish sleeper cells, those people are just nuts. Hell no. They're in an office somewhere getting busy. But there's something going on with these Islamic sleeper cells. I sure don't trust it. And they need to look good right now because they're really taking a hit. They look bad. They look weak. They look primitive. They need to do something to look good, to reinstitute the fear that people used to feel for them. Because the truth is, they aren't looking so scary anymore, are they? All of a sudden, after all these years of, oh my God, we don't dare do that. Well, gee, all it takes was someone going over there and putting a boot on their head. But they're throwing missiles around, killing each other, and leaving free Western nations alone. There hasn't been any terror attacks in Europe. There hasn't been anything substantial here in the U.S., just one that I'm aware of. Something is going on. Muslims are killing Muslims over there, and they're leaving the West alone. You know, that's another thing. When was the last time you saw Jewish sects that were killing each other? Knock the Jews all you want. They're in a rough neighborhood over there. But the truth is, the Islamic people, they divide off into all these different little sects, and they all got their different mullahs and beliefs, and they start killing each other over it because they're basically just a violent society. They're all part of a violent cult. The Jews have been around for a couple thousand years longer. They don't run around killing each other, fighting over which belief system they're going to follow. But here we are. We know they're out there. What are they doing? Are they really going to sit this one out? Right now, I've been wrong. I thought it would happen by now. You've probably been wrong too. Are they really going to sit this one out? Where the heck are they? This is something to think about, but a lot of people need to keep their head on a swivel. I would not go to any large gathering in a major city, nothing that's been planned in advance that they'd be aware of. I'd be nervous about the synagogues. But my gosh, it's taken an awful long time, and I'm really surprised for one. This is a prediction I got wrong, because I would have swore, I didn't publish it anywhere, but I took it for granted that they would be hitting back within 3 days. I thought something would happen. Well, I'm glad they're not doing anything. I hope they learn their lesson, but it's hard to believe since they're all a bunch of primitive, since so many of them are primitive nutcases. But keep your fingers crossed and your head on a swivel. Pray that we get it right. We got to get it right. Then maybe God will continue to bless this great country of ours. Thanks for listening.